It does.
practice.
Dun dun dun. Do you know where you're recording?
Yes, to my computer.
Okay. Just checking. You get more useless files if you do it on Zoom.
Yeah, well, I think I'll avoid those.
As you were about to say, Brad, on this wonderful Lionsgate presentation with Chuck Crom bringing in his specialties and whatever other beings happen to be around.
Which would be primarily Desatu tonight, of course.
Primarily, whoa,
Maybe singularly. We will see.
Chuck, I was going to tell you that since you're
Well,
recording to your computer, you can change the views if you ever desire to see the group as opposed to just the speaker. You can do that manually, and it records it in the exact way that you have done it, basically.
Okay, interesting. We'll chat about that at another time too. So, Brad, I think that's your cue.
well, a okay. Well, a year ago, we were facing legislation that was superimposed upon the city of Winnipeg and 17 surrounding municipalities to become part of something called the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region. And when you look into this, what it's all about, we find that it is essentially the United Nations Agenda 2030. Now, they present it as market it as, oh, it's just this wonderful thing where we're all going to join arms, sing kumbaya, and the planning will be so purposeful and intentional. There's going to be all these wonderful benefits. Well, when you dig into the legislation, you quickly find out that two-thirds of the population of Manitoba was going to come under control of a central planning authority. Okay. In other words, Russia, communism, is going to take over two-thirds of the population. And when people started to wake up, they started to attend more and more meetings. So the government had to have two public hearings before they could have a pass the legislation. The first one had only about 150, 180 people. The second one they held on August the 8th in a small town. The room could only hold about 250 people. There were over 900. And the people who were the chair and the other sort of high ranking people were texting back and forth to their controllers in the legislative building, not knowing what to do, and they had to cancel the meeting. Then they had to say, well, we don't know where this whole Central Planning Authority, one of WMR, is going to take place. Everyone is up in arms. And this quiet attempt to slip it through in the middle of summer when no one was around went down in flames, literally. And it was all because they held it on the wrong day of the year. And boy, are we ever thankful they did. No more Central Planning Authority, and boy, your life would be governed excruciatingly. You had no accountability to any of these elected officials, quote unquote, and the unelected bureaucrats who were going to run your life any way they saw fit. Local authority was usurped, and you had to apply to the central council to get anything done, from building a pool to why is his pool heater too close and he shouldn't even have a pool. And that was the thing. They could eliminate anything they wanted, from a shed to a pool to an expansion, anything. Central Planning Authority. Yeah. Welcome to Agenda 2030. Thank you so much. But we said no. Yes. And I cannot say enough for the power of the Lionsgate. It magnified the people's powers. Oh, yes. And that's
That's
my story.
It's nice.
Cool.
Yeah. Every time you get individuals who come together and choose differently, it is a very powerful thing.
Sounds like a
Yep.
homeowners association gone amok.
Oh, this is so much more. 2/3 of the population of us, we call it a province, you would call it a state, 2/3 under the control, literally forced upon by the government of the day. There were no options to get out of this thing. They just said, you're all in it, have 2 hearings, and then we're going to pass the legislation. Oh, no, that one stunk to high heaven. And
Well, it's nice
oh,
that you
yes,
guys meet different choices.
Oh yes, and a few. It really was a small core of people who understood what was going on with this legislation, and they managed to get the message out, and we just sort of kept on multiplying it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was from the ground up.
Very nice.
I think you said some key words because it's very important for people to understand that it was a small group of people that understood, that took action, that stood up for what they believed. And that's all it took, because that's how much power a small group of people can have when they come together. And
Yes,
it's,
Margaret Mead. Yep,
even though
Margaret Mead said
there's
that.
so
I
much,
agree totally.
there's so much money and pull behind these agendas, and so much effort, but it was a small group of people that came together and they just said no. And whoopsie whoops, all of that money, all of that effort that was put into something that was divisive in nature and in energy was very quickly overturned by something that was unifying in energy and in nature, mechanically speaking.
Yeah.
So much more powerful, so much more powerful than all that money and all of that effort that was wasted towards something that's divisive.
Sure. And what's nice about this time period that we're in and we've been moving deeper into is that particular phenomenon of seeing how cooperative energy is so very powerful in contrast, I guess maybe I'll use that word, to energy that is fragmented, that isn't cohesive, that doesn't flow together, that doesn't flow cooperatively, which is why this shift of ours continues to expand, regardless that those individuals that are familiar with it are still in a very small minority compared to the rest of the population on the planet. Because, of course, where we are, we're connected and we're aware of our connection and we move in that connection. We're not living our life in a disconnected, fragmented way, and so as a result of that, our power is immense.
Especially if that is hard connectedness. And
Right.
when that happens, even if it's just for minutes, you can create anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm thinking that we've waited a little bit of time. I think enough to probably gather most of the individuals that are going to be here at this point anyway. So why don't we go ahead and do the channeling aspect of things, and then following that, possibly we'll do something else. I'm thinking maybe just discussion afterwards if there's any of that. So I think we'll run it kind of the way that we typically do. We'll allow Desetu to share whatever it is they're going to share tonight, and then I'm sure what will happen is that there'll be a opportunity for any kind of questions or expansions or anything like that. So let's do that. So I'll have you guys mute, and then you can come off mute when you want to ask questions. So if you just want to give me a couple of moments. So once again, we would greet all of you and express, as we always do, our appreciation of the connection that we share with all of you tonight. Because, of course, it adds a large degree of fulfillment to our experience of consciousness, as our interaction with you does for you. So we have a tendency, as Chuck is interacting in conversation, to listen in before we come forward and share information with all of you. So we're aware of the theme, shall we say, of the energy that those of you gathered here tonight are familiar with. So if you have some familiarity with us, our tendency is to lean in the direction of reminding you how very unlimited you are. There are many on your planet who have shared this information with you. And we know, of course, that due to your ideas of time, especially the linear flow of time, and within that, your memories of your experiences as a relatively singularly focused human experience, that even though you could be surrounded with information and expose yourself to that information, sharing with you the truth, if we can use that word in the moment, that you are much, much more than your physical body. That what you are as consciousness is in fact unlimited. We shared an example a while back with a group that we'll utilize here again tonight. And that is, in a way of expressing it, if you were the only individual on your planet and the only individual in your universe, still the entirety of your universe would exist. All of your stars would exist. One of the things that you may not be familiar with all of your stars, is that because your energy, the energy of the vast, unlimited you, is so unlimited that you need to express your energy as stars do, as this unfathomable, almost furnace of energy that keeps expressing energy outward from itself all the time. And your galaxies and your universes are filled with these. This is your ability. This is your power. Your ability is infinite. It is unlimited. Now, of course, within your seemingly physical experience, you don't see much evidence of that yet. You've had some that have walked your planet that have shown you these things. And on occasion, within your explorations, you have hints. You have experiences that come to you that are outside of the realm of what your normal life is like. And you hold on to these because they are proof, shall we say, to you that something other than normal is going on. They help you understand that there's more to your experience, that the words that various individuals have shared with you over the decades and sometimes over the centuries have substance to them. That in fact, you just may be leaning in the direction that you are actually consciousness, spirit, something that is infinite enough that you create the very experience that you have in your physical reality. In this, throughout your millennia, you have utilized various symbols, shall we say, to help remind you that you have a connection that is beyond what your immediate connection has seemed to be as you've walked your planet. You build structures like pyramids, like the Sphinx. You create various other structures around your planet that are very hard to explain how they got there. And of course, you have stories that are associated with all of these things. When your archaeologists dig in the ground and they discover things that, in terms of how you see linear time, have been buried for many, many, many thousands of years, or so your dating systems will tell you. This is not actually, however, how this works. As you expand your consciousness, as you move more deeply into who and what you actually are, what you in fact do is you create in that moment those things to be unearthed that help you continue to move in the direction that you're already moving, that help you in your expansion. They are, in a physical way, proof to you that there is more going on than when you once thought. But they don't actually sit in the ground for long periods of time. They are created in the moment for you to discover. When it comes to a variety of methodologies that help you have a deeper understanding of yourself, of course, there are many around your planet. Some are quite familiar. Meditation is quite familiar. Connecting with nature is quite familiar. Exploring your dreams is quite familiar. Individuals use things like Ouija boards and runes, crystals. There are all sorts of methods, all sorts of focal points that you have utilized throughout the ages to help to make it a little more facilitative, to open the doorways between this aspect of yourself and those greater energies of who and what you are. This is what you also have done with places like your Bermuda Triangle. Now, as the communication around your planet has become more streamlined, and as now all of you are able to connect with each other in a much easier way, the various symbols that you use to access your greater energies become known by a larger audience. In that, in a manner of speaking, you give them, perhaps we can say, more accessibility, because they are being fed by larger numbers of the collective. They are being focused on by larger numbers of the collective. So when you've utilized expressions like astrology, because astrology has been around for such a long period of time, there is a embracing of the information that flows through it. Now, of course, it is in fact you and your greater energies that are creating those planets that are moving about in the heavens. And it is, in fact, your movements that are then reflected in the planets. So then, of course, if you have somebody who is very good with the science of astrology, they can look at the planets for an individual, and then in sort of reverse order, they can then see what's going on within the individual. But what's occurring is that those actions are happening within the individual first. They create their surroundings to match that, and then it's there for individuals to observe, of course, especially for those individuals who are quite expert at those observations. So the phenomenon that for all of you who are aware of it, and even those who are unaware of it, for that phenomenon that peaks today, this is something that is similar. It is a focal point that you have created to allow you to access your greater energies more easily than you would otherwise do. It makes it easier to reach into yourself, to allow shifts and movements to happen in your own energy, in your own consciousness, in your own environment, as you move into a greater understanding of yourself than would otherwise be true. And of course, this is very much a part of your process here on your planet. You have done these types of things for many, many, many centuries, and they are quite effective. As you move more deeply into your awareness of who and what you are, little by little by little, the need to utilize these types of tools, perhaps we can say, or focal points, some have termed them permission slips, will drop by the side because you will have an awareness of what you are, what you're capable of, and how impactful your movements within consciousness are to the environment that you find yourself within. This will become second nature to you, shall we say. In the meantime, you are, of course, free to use any of these methods that you're drawn to. And you're drawn to them for that very reason. You are drawn to them because there is an energy frequency there that some part of you matches, which allows you to interact with that particular focal point, that particular methodology, shall we say, easier than others might be for you. And so, of course, as you move through your process, becoming aware of those things that you have a natural leaning towards will help you to understand those particular focal points, those particular processes, those particular symbolic representations of your greater energies that can, in fact, help you connect with more of who and what you are, to actions that are flowing from your greater energies that then show up in your reality, that then entice you to move even deeper into that broader understanding of your beingness. In this movement that you're all within, in your expansive period, in your shifting period, one of the things that we would like to help ensure, perhaps we would say, that you always embrace is your own power, your own ability. There is no thing, there is no idea that you create, whether it's on your own or in a group, that has more power than you do. You are, in fact, all of consciousness. You see yourself as a particular flow of consciousness, but you, in fact, spread out into all of consciousness. Your ability is, in fact, unlimited. Now you have, within this physical dimension, chosen to focus yourself down in a particular way. Within this period, however, you're widening that back up. you will once again understand that your ability is unlimited. And it really is not dependent on other things around you. It is your ability. Anything, in fact, that works for you in this lifetime works for you because that is your inherent ability. And you allow yourself to tap into that through the ideas that you have within your process of the ability that these other things have. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not bad at all. It's just part of your process. But it will be a process that you will leave behind you as you come to a deeper understanding of your true nature. So, in that, we believe we will pause here. And anybody who would like to ask a question can go ahead and do that. And we understand that the chat function on this is not working at the moment. And so, in that, what we will do is, if we could, if you could possibly
Raise hands.
raise hands, yes. And maybe we could have Ray Heitman orchestrate that a little bit.
I'd be honored.
Thank you.
Willow.
I know you already touched on this, but I was curious if artistic and creative uses of symbolism will still be relevant on Earth once humanity develops a clearer and more direct understanding of consciousness.
They will. It's not that you're going to, in a very short window of time, move beyond your physical expression. You will maintain and retain your physical expression. In fact, those types of expressions will themselves become wider and broader. You will have ideas, you will have methodologies of expressing them that at this moment are to some degree unknown to individuals, depending on who the individuals are. But they will still very much, yes, be part of the mix of what you're doing. You will just approach them in a little different way than what you're doing right now.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Christina Anna.
Thank you and greetings.
Thank you.
We have been told, yes, that we create the reality we live in. So every experience, our whole reality is a projection of ourselves. And I am battling with this idea of why am I creating a reality where it comes to my awareness that there are so many technologies and things that could enhance our health and our well-being and all these things, and yet they are not accessible to us. Why on earth would I put myself in such a frustrating situation?
We will give you several answers. One is, one of the important parts of this particular reality, and one that you were familiar with before you chose to participate in this physical reality amongst many that you participate in, is that in this particular reality, you utilize beliefs very heavily to, shall we say, filter your consciousness. And so there are many, many, many ways that people believe that life should be, the way life should be lived. There are many ways that they believe in their own limitations. There are many ways that they believe that they don't have the wherewithal to express themselves in a particular way. There are all sorts of influences that, because of your idea of time and the flow of time and the type of history that makes sense to you from this moment, there's many influences that individuals have that they have to find their ways through, shall we say. All of you who've explored this are into that process. You're into recognizing what it is that holds you back from expressing yourself in whatever way you would like to. Many people on your planet do not have that awareness yet. And so the beliefs that they carry are rather automatic in that regard. Now, at the same time, let's say in this moment, you chose to join an organization that helped to provide relief to people in a particular country. And so your leave date is in a couple of weeks. You pack all your things. You jump on a plane, you fly to that country. And you're in that country only a couple of days. And the war that was no longer going on in that area now comes back. And your situation becomes something that is very different than what you thought it might be, much more difficult. Yet at the same time, you chose to be in the situation. You knew there was a potential that would come about, but you thought it was maybe a slimmer potential than it actually turned out to be. Now you get through it fine, and you return to your home, and you have a particular experience that's now a part of who and what you are. This, in a way, is similar to this particular physical dimension that you find yourself in. You knew coming into it that it is one of the most challenging places that you can have an experience in. It is very rare for you, in fact, to block as much of your awareness of who and what you are from yourself within an experience as what you have done here. And so in that, you have many experiences that from within the experience, you would term negative, and all the various other ways that you utilize that word. Now, of course, before you came into the experience, you know that you are an eternal being. You know that everybody who joins you here are eternal beings. Death in that regard does not actually occur. You know that you can't actually be harmed here. And like when you go and watch a movie in a theater, it seems very convincing, especially to the audience, because the movie, the cinematography, the acting, the score that's played, all those things come together to make it very convincing. And so here, that is what you wanted. You wanted an experience that was very convincing. You knew you would not be harmed in it. There are groups of you, in fact, that will choose not so much from this part of them conscious themselves, but from a little bit behind this aspect of themselves, to leave the planet sometimes in groups, to send a message to the rest of you who stay. They may die in tsunamis. They may die in mudfloods. They may die in fires. They may die in war. You've done that before. You attempt to catch your attention so that you can start to do things differently. So in this process of yours, it is accelerating. However, one of the things that's also occurring with you is you're aware that there is not just one version of Earth. There are many versions of Earth, if you want to call them probable Earths, right? So as you widen your awareness, what occurs is that you become increasingly aware of the various activities of those other Earths, and let's say you mix those activities on the one that you find yourself on, where in fact you're not actually walking one Earth, you're walking many Earths at the same time. So in that, one of the things that you're going to find eventually is that focusing on the way that you would like to express your reality, And allowing other individuals to focus on the way that they would like to express their reality is the most powerful thing that you can do in this expansion. Because what that will do is it will help you to become increasingly surrounded by the type of a reality that you would like to have. At the same time, the other realities will still be around you, but you'll be able to view them in a different way. You'll be able to view them as the choice that those other individuals are making for a whole variety of reasons, some that make no sense from the concept of an individual that probably still has concepts of injury and death. Again, as you expand your awareness and those things fall behind, you'll see that picture much more clearly than what you do now. And so at the moment, that's what we would express to you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And thank you. Willow's going to have to wait a minute because my question's coming first. She had her turn. And Luis gives his regards to everyone. He had to take off, and he says he loves you all, which you all know already. And now that I've gotten the commercials out of the way to say too, I appreciate you being here with us this evening. And I have a Lionsgate question. It seems, and this is something I've been interested in, but it seems in my understanding that beings or energies or entities which normally do not interact or encounter our physical reality have a little easier way of, or we come to their attention, I would say, a little easier during the Lionsgate. And I just want to see if that is your understanding or if there are other particular days in our linear imaginary landscape which are better than others for connecting with beings. Please.
So the short answer, so there's little suspense for you, is indeed. But then, of course, there's the longer answer. And the longer answer is, as we expressed earlier, all of you do take the opportunity to utilize these particular ideas, these concepts, such as the one you just mentioned, to focus more on the type of things that you would like to have occur on your planet, which are things like cooperation and love and kindness and other things that are like this. When you do that, when you choose those moments to do that, because that is what you do, it is more typical for you to choose particular times throughout your year to do that, to focus on, than to do it every single day. So when you do that, what you do is you do shift the frequency that you're expressing. And in the shift of that frequency, you, shall we say, catch the attention of other individuals that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. In that, if they choose to, they can, shall we say, peek into what you have going on in your expression of physical reality.
And I'm sure that the global knowledge in some circles of the Lionsgate and people believing that they can connect easier will help propel that into more of an accessible realization, I will say, if that makes sense.
Any methodology that you use like that, even if it's personal, will do just that for you. Doesn't matter what it is. Individuals who maybe are not quite at the point where they may trust their own inner answers as easily can use things like pendulums or muscle testing or things like this. They do the same thing. They allow you a portal, shall we say, to tap into your own understanding and energies. And again, the methodologies are fine. Just that eventually what will occur is you will reach a place where you will put those aside because you will have an understanding of who and what you are. You will not need those any longer. Nothing wrong with using them in the meantime. It is part of your process.
Thank you so much. Willow.
Hi again. Um, what is the choice that you would suggest individuals to make that would allow their experience of Earth to mimic the qualities of the spirit realm?
Probably the strongest thing that you can do in that regard is to embrace acceptance. Total acceptance of yourself and total acceptance of other individuals. What is tricky for many of you is that acceptance does not involve agreement, which many times makes it difficult for you. You do not need to agree with somebody to accept that their choices within consciousness are as valid as your choices are within consciousness. This is the nature of consciousness. Each expression of consciousness gets to choose how it is they would like to express their experience within all of consciousness. As you move within this shift of yours, that will become increasingly apparent to all of you. One of the expressions that all of you align with very strongly is if you feel your ability to express is being hindered, especially in a strong way, you will do everything you can to move beyond that. As the individual earlier in the night was expressing with their population in the country called Canada. So, the ability to express in your own unique way is something that is inherent in all of consciousness. In that, one of the things that is more difficult for all of you to understand is the reality of energy in your experience. And because all of you have so much power, when you choose to view something in a particular way, it spreads through the entirety, not only of your collective, but the entirety of consciousness. The individual earlier was asking about individuals who might pop in and become part of your experience. If you do not understand how powerful your energy is, you may not understand in your judgmentalism that you are buffering your experience, shall we say, to have those individuals become part of your experience. Acceptance is the key. Acceptance of yourself and acceptance of others in their choices. As you do that, what you in fact do is you move your experience closer to what you would actually like it to be. Especially as you move deeper into this shifting process of yours.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you. And of course, a great reminder for everyone to cultivate more acceptance in their hearts for themselves and everybody.
Yes.
I do not see any additional hands up. Hint, hint. Willow would like a three-peat, please.
Whoever would
I-
like to go is fine.
I was prepared ahead of time, so I have quite a few. But as long as there's time, I might as well ask one more. So earlier you were talking about the stars and the consciousness of the stars and the power and the radiance of that energy. So I was curious. I'm probably this probably is true, but can the consciousness of a star physically incarnate? And if so, how does that energy translate into a form? What kind of being would that look like?
So the energy of a star has incarnated physically. If you walk into your bathroom and look in your mirror, you will see that being. If any of you do that, you will see that being. There is no, all of the stars that you are able to become aware of within your surroundings, shall we say, are your energy. your immediate energy and consciousness. The distinction only lies within your viewing them from the perspective of the focus that you have right now as the self. But the stars are continuous with your consciousness. They are your consciousness. And so they have an awareness to some degree of parts of themselves, because they are your consciousness, that focus themselves in this type of an experience. They may not have their attention there. There may be something at some point that draws their attention there. And in fact, for many of your stars, what that something will be is when you have moved entirely through your shift. When you do that, the energy that you will express throughout the rest of who and what you are will, shall we say, tap those aspects of yourself that express themselves in some way in association with this experience on the shoulder and say, if you would like to become a little familiar with this experience, or as familiar as they would like to be, they would do that. Until then, many of those expressions are largely unaware of what you do here, except, of course, for the one that you consider to be in the middle of your solar system, as well as those that you put your focus on, such as Sirius and other stars. When you do that, you involve them in your experience. For those that you don't do that with, they are largely unaware of your experience here.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And that's a very beautiful answer. Thank you for all of those perspectives that you have woven together for us.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was really cool. And all that star energy is why we all shine so bright.
You being who you are why those stars shine so bright.
Touche, and thank you. I know there's been a lot of talk recently about the things that have been found on Earth and the things which will be found on Earth. Can you maybe provide some details about maybe what areas of the Earth, or maybe what some of these might be, or any impacts that might come from those, please?
In your most recent time periods, in other words, as you move into what you consider to be your future in time periods that are closer to yours, because you already utilize certain areas in this regard, you will continue to do that. You will utilize those areas where it is more common for those types of things to be found. And you will expand those. As you move deeper into your shift, you will do that in different areas, because what you want to do with yourself is you want to surprise yourself. You don't want things to be too familiar to you after a certain point. Now, of course, what you're doing all the time as a collective and individually is you are always in connection with all the various probabilities about how those types of things, as well as other things, will unfold. And you're always moving and shifting your decisions around as far as how you're going to do that, how that will be most impactful to the process that you're within. And you will choose those things that will do just that, that will be as impactful as possible, that will help the most individuals, catch the most attention for individuals, to help them to move forward in this process. Because in one way of speaking, in terms of simultaneous time, you have completed this process. And so now what it's really about is how, we'll say it like this, how on this probable Earth will you move in that direction? And you may not think so, but you shift that around quite frequently.
Thank you. That was quite profound, like all of the answers tonight. Wendy and or Dave, do you have something for to say to this evening? They weren't ready. And they weren't even aware I was going to call them out. Yes, Willow, you can go again.
This might be the last one. It depends if another one pops in. What is an important question that you would encourage individuals to ask of themselves that isn't commonly asked?
There are many good ones that are commonly asked by explorers, anyway. This may be unusual. Why is it that I believe that one choice is better than the choice I am presently making?
That's a good question.
And then allow the deeper you to provide you with some insight into that.
I will write it down and ask it in a time where I can receive something. Thank you.
It is, might we say, a bit Zen-like in that regard.
We've run out of volunteers except for Willow. So we will let her continue, of course. This is fun.
I don't have any others at the moment.
Not physical, no, but go ahead.
Feel free to ask whatever question you would like to ask.
No, I don't have one.
I have a question. Why doesn't Willow have any more questions?
Because I've been put on the spot.
Oh,
No.
that was rhetorical, only not for very long. You mentioned astrology earlier, and I know that as consciousness, we move the planets and the stars, and it's all a reflection of us as well. And I know that there are infinite numbers of universes, but is the use of planets and spheres in particular a kind of a standard for physical realities?
No, it is not. It's an expression that several physical dimensions use, but it is not by any means the expression that most physical dimensions use. There's a huge amount of variety, actually. Now, many of the ideas that you will have as you are into your exploration, of course, are flavored heavily by your present experience. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that experience. It provides you with a particular type of an experience, which is why you're doing it. But again, as you near the end of your shift, and certainly once you have finished with your shift, you will have quite an expanded understanding of how other dimensions express themselves. It is difficult, sometimes challenging, perhaps we would say instead, from this vantage point, to understand just how wide your awareness would be and will be as your shift comes to completion. You will express yourselves very differently than what you do now. Very differently.
Thank you. In a session, a channeling session last night, the Syrian beings who came through were reminding us that it's possible for beings outside our reality to automatically absorb and experience or gain knowledge of millions of humans, our human consciousness expressed in our Earth collective space-time reality, so that they can get what we would consider to be massive amounts of information automatically. And I know, in our limited point of view, that if the vibrations are exponentially higher, then I would assume that that may equate with being able to contain more what we would consider information in consciousness. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes. As we mentioned earlier, of course, you are consciousness, and there is the penchant to separate the wider aspect of you from this aspect of you. Individuals think of their higher selves as if it's something removed from who and what they are. But information is always shared through all of consciousness. And so if we talk in terms, utilizing language that you have some familiarity with, when you think in terms of what has been termed an oversoul, there are unlimited dimensions of beings within that oversoul, you being one of them. And because they are common in that regard to the same collection of consciousness, perhaps we'll put it that way in this moment, all of that is, of course, shared immediately with all of those other beings. Now, like with yourselves, it would take those beings being in a place that they have an awareness of that information that's being shared. That is part of the consciousness pool, shall we say, that they are interactive with. Many have that ability. Some, such as you, are working in that ability or do not have that ability yet. But yes.
Thank you. Yes, Willow. She has another question. Or Willow has another question.
How does an organized and coherent expression of negative energy display itself in physical reality? Can coherent negativity even take form physically?
So we would like you to do something for us. Describe for us what, in your way of seeing things, or in your question, what coherent negative energy means.
I guess it would be negative energy that has a specific intention that is very clear and precise, and it's not like it was created, I guess, with
We would
a
say
theme.
yes.
It's not all irregular and kind of scattered, you know?
We would say yes. In fact, many of the what you would term negative experiences you have with negative energy then are there almost always to provide you with a choice, which then gives you a very coherent direction to move within. And the negative energy was there. You brought it into your experience for the potential of that to occur, to make that choice, to open up your awareness to the choices that were there, and through that, perhaps choose one of them. Now, if you don't do it in that moment, many times you will repeat that for yourselves. You may repeat it in a way that's quite similar. It may be slightly different. But again, it affords you the opportunity to move in a different direction. So you do that quite frequently with energy of that type.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Would it be possible for you to provide any details of the 3 new beings which popped in this afternoon or this evening, I should say, when I invited them in? I just said, I am open, connect with me, show me your love. And I got quite the response. 2 were non-physical, 1 was.
What we would say in that regard is these are individuals that will play an increasing role in maybe we'll say the introductions isn't quite the right word. The building of the community of energies that you become increasingly familiar with. Facilitators, perhaps we would call them. And we would leave it at that point for you because it is about your discovery of what they will do with you and for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because 1 said that, they just don't interact with us, but they were intrigued. So I guess they can't say that anymore.
When they mention that they will not interact with you at this moment, what they are not suggesting is they will never interact with you. What they are suggesting is that as things shift with you, the interactions will happen with increasing frequency, or you will become increasingly aware of them at those times as well.
Yes, that particular one said that they were light years ahead of humanity, which will have to remain vague and ambiguous because there are no light years. I'm not saying that either. There are different expressions of everything. So
again, something you will become increasingly aware of as you move towards the finality of your shift. At that point, you will have spanned those light years.
Excellent. I'm glad I brought that up. Anyone else like to participate tonight? Shy only gets you overlooked. Artur?
Just want to express my gratitude for this connection, this interaction, the sharing, that expansion, that field that is growing, building, that we can participate in through this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, it's all about all of you that bring you the feelings of the expansion that all of you are creating, especially as you gather in this particular way.
Thank you to Setu and Chuck.
So in that, we would
we have another question. If you are,
we would certainly pause. Yes.
Pardon my interruption, but Wendy, Dave.
Oh, we just wanted to say thank you as well for the beautiful interaction and the wonderful energy and the very extensive questions and answers. And I have to say the questions are as important as the answers. And so it's just such a beautiful, beautiful interaction.
We agree.
Well said.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And sharing it is enlightening.
Deep stuff.
When we express the things that we do in gatherings like this, the information that we share is because each individual that participates in the gathering has reached a point where what they want to do with themselves is they want to expand their own horizons. It is not us that expands your horizons. It's you that expands your own horizons. we share only the information that those more expansive aspects of you, in a manner of speaking, share with us to share with you.
Do you perform this service for other counterparts of the entity we know as Chuck? I'm sure there are no limits, so I knew that popped into my head as soon as it popped out of my mouth.
This is something that we do as perhaps we could say our intent is concerned. And our favorite, if we can use that word, venues are those venues that are in some ways expressing a movement that's similar to yours, where what they are doing is they are moving into an awareness of who and what they are. And that awareness is as you have found it to be when your new millennium began to come about and the way that the energy began to flow then. Those are the places, those are the areas of consciousness that we find to be the most exciting.
Nice ad. Thank you. Another
With that,
wonderful evening.
we would say goodnight to all of you and express that we love to experience the growth that we see for you on the horizon. It is very near. And you will feel it more and more as the weeks and the months go by. So do not allow yourself, especially to be hard on yourself in those situations where you may encounter a little bit of challenge. Because a number of years ago, those challenges wouldn't even be on your plate yet because you hadn't reached a place where you could have those types of challenges. Now you're there. And so if anything else, pat yourself on your back. Give yourself that way to go because you've reached a place where you can explore yourself in the way that you are right now. And with that, we would say, have a very nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
And Luis said that as well.
Thank you, Luis.
And do you have any desire to bring forth